And we're here today on site at South Dakota State University. We're going to talk with Jeff Holm. He's the Senior Associate Athletic Director. Jeff, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. Matt Anderson's here with us,
Hello.
of course.
How you doing, Jeff?
Doing great. How about you, man?
Doing good, man.
Good.
First, to start off, for listeners and those that are watching, can you give us a bit of background on your position and how you came to be here at SDSU?
Oh, sure. I'll skip much of it. I was a college baseball coach for quite a long time. Was at a place in Illinois for a while, and then I landed at Augustana in Sioux Falls. Augustana University now was Augustana College when I went to it.
Okay.
Then my kids got to the age where I started missing their stuff in the summers when I was recruiting, and Bill Gross, who was the athletic director at Augustana at the time, gave me the opportunity to become an administrator with him as an associate athletic director. And forever grateful for that. So I tell people all the time I downgraded from coaching to administration in athletics. It was a great opportunity. When that happened, Bill Gross, who is a fantastic fundraiser, was able to concentrate on fundraising. And that's kind of when the building boom happened at Augustana with the football stadium, the baseball stadium, the soccer field, the tennis courts, the indoor golf. And I was fortunate to be along on that ride and get to be a point person for athletics in the construction of those buildings. So I kind of cut my teeth there. And then when Justin Sell was hired at SDSU, they actually came and looked at Kirkby Over Stadium at Augustana to see some things that they might want to incorporate into the new stadium, which has now become Dana J. Dykhouse Stadium. Mm-hmm. Got to know Justin a little bit, and then there was an opening at SDSU, and I thought, this would be a nice opportunity, and was fortunate to get the job here. And when I landed here, that's when we were going on the SJAC on Dana J. Dykhouse Stadium. And practice courts come along. Now we've got First Bank and Trust Arena renovation. It's just been fantastic. I'm very, very blessed.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking maybe that jump then from coaching to that, and even you've been part of athletics pretty much your career, right? Because we know we were talking earlier, you played with our own Will Ellerbrook. You played baseball here too,
yes.
Right? So you're a player, coach, administration. It's just athletics has been kind of a part of your life.
It has been, and it is a lifestyle. It's just it's something that gets inside of you, and you love to do it. It's long hours. It's a lot of things that people with a normal job would never think, oh yeah, they have this, but it is a lifestyle, and it's been just wonderful. I'm very blessed.
Yeah, and then we're thinking about your title then today. Can you maybe go into that a little bit? Like, what are your roles and responsibilities with South Dakota State University?
So my title is way too long. It's Senior Associate Athletic Director for Facilities and Operations. Try to put that on a business card.
Sure.
It just doesn't work. I usually
at least do AD, but then after
that's it. But we have a awesome, wonderful staff here in many of the athletic departments, subdivisions. Mine, we have fantastic people. So I have a group of people that we all work together in figuring out how we're going to run a football game day, how we're going to run a basketball game day, a volleyball game day, a soccer game day. But then how are we scheduling practices? How are we making sure teams have this? When we have a construction project, when a locker room isn't able to be used, how do we move a team over here and still accommodate what they need? Working with our academic staff, our strength and conditioning staff, our sports medicine staff. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of folks that all work together. It is a real family here. Mm-hmm. So even though my staff and I are in facilities and operations, we're a family. It's SDSU athletics, and we all figure it out together. Yep. And that nowhere has that been more pointed than when we went through COVID. Just like you guys at Daktronics, you figure things out. You help each other out. Then we need things here. Yep, we'll do that. How can we? And the only way you can do that is if everybody's on board, and we're lucky to have that here.
The lines get a little blurred, but you're just trying to help everybody out.
Absolutely. What I say all the time is, are you a good teammate? Yes. If the answer is yes, you'll pick up a broom and sweep the floor at halftime. And we have a lot of people that will do that. We just do.
Nice. And you even mentioned something a little bit there, the coordination of all the different events and all the different practices going on. It's kind of mind-boggling to think of all the different sports that you have that you're coordinating across campus, and you somehow make that work, even with a big construction project going on.
Absolutely. And it's not only that, but we are a part of something bigger. It's not just athletics. We host graduation. We host senior visit days in Frost Arena. We have Governor's Day over at the SJAC. We host multiple items at Club 71, whether it be for other things on campus or weddings or Daktronics will have meetings there from time to time.
Right.
So and our powwow, our auction, our FFA, our little international, there's just everybody comes together and to make it work.
Yeah, community events as well, like everything, right?
100%. Brookings High School football games.
There you go.
We host the NAIA National Indoor Track Meet that our team doesn't even participate in, but it is huge for our community. So we do our best.
Yeah, and we've touched on construction, mentioned when construction projects are going on, and today we're kind of talking, although we want to dive into a little bit more of a new one coming on.
Yes.
Right over here where we're sitting by, can you dive into the new arena project that's going on here on campus?
Absolutely. Aside from the folks who are willing to just roll up their sleeves and help, we also have those that are willing to write checks. And so those folks have really pushed this along, starting with First Bank and Trust, writing that check as the lead donor, and really got the ball rolling. And so we're now into this. This is the first summer of a 3-summer project.
Okay.
We will continue to use Frost Arena for our volleyball games, our wrestling matches, and our basketball games. The way we are able to do that is to work with our construction manager at risk, Henry Carlson Construction, and our architect, which is EAPC, along with Perkins and Will, on the timeline of it. And so they are well aware of when we need to have the facility back in order for fans to be in it, when we need to have the facility back in order for our training to begin in the gym floor. And we will work with them as things pop up, whether it be water shutdowns or electrical shutdowns, tie-ins. We will work with them. Our coaches are fantastic at understanding the process. And that sometimes if you don't have a hot shower, that's the price of progress. Tomorrow you will have a hot shower. Today they may have to go home and shower. But we're fortunate to have people that understand that. Getting back to it's a 3-summer process. This summer, most of the work will not be detectable by the public. It's going to be understructure. It's going to be putting in some things that are going to hold up the permanent seating. Next summer, the summer of 2023, which will begin as soon as our basketball season finishes. So end of February, early March, the construction folks will take over. It is a big summer next summer because we've got to get permanent seats in on the second level. We've got to get the structure in that will hold the third level up because we're now going to have a third level with suites and some decks, platforms for folks for socializing, which is what we're seeing people want to do.
Yeah.
We're still going to have roughly 5,000 capacity, a little over 5,000 capacity, some of which will be standing area with pub tables where people can get together with others, and it's a social event. But I'm getting off course a little bit. So that second summer is a big summer. And then that third summer, which would be the summer of 2024, is really where the event level or the gym floor and we call them telescopic bleachers, the bleachers that go in and out, that will take place that third summer. Every seat in the new facility will be a chairback seat, except for the student section. The student section will now become all on the west side. Right now, it's some on the west, some on the east on the lower level. It'll become all the west side on the lower and upper level. Our students will have a club room. Our students will have a platform deck on the very top. They will have, we're working with some of our students on how to set up that area so it's the most unique experience that there is in college basketball, and it's going to be quite fun. The students are going to have some sweat equity in it in developing the plans and then actually facilitating what happens. Who gets in the club area on these games? Who gets on the lower seats? Our band section is going to be fantastic. One thing that people will notice once this is finished is that our Our benches and our score table are currently on the south side. That is going to switch over to the north side.
Okay.
All right.
Our south side is going to become where our club room is for regular spectators and our suites. So that's going to be kind of the premium area, that south side, and looking back towards the north side where our bench and scores table will be.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And you're talking about all these different changes. There had to be a lot of thought going on. Like you said, you're actually working with the students that will be in those sections to coordinate those. And did you do a lot of looking at what other arenas were doing, or what kind of research did you do on the back end to decide where these standing deck areas and these social areas were going to come in?
That's a great question. And yes, quite a bit of research, whether it be going to someplace on site or making calls to people you trust. Making notes, hey, that's kind of neat. Let's make sure we put that in there. That's pretty awesome. By the way, I was supposed to start this podcast off, Justin Sell, our athletic director, I just saw him in the hallway. He said, make sure you start it off by saying, we appreciate the $1 million in product for doing this podcast.
That was the price for coming in here?
Yeah. So I got it in.
Sure.
But yes, we did look at a ton of places, and many of those places had Daktronics products. So we were able to see that works, and we've been working with Daktronics folks, Matt Warnke and Eric Ray, and on let's try this. We have some cool things that we are planning on, some of which we are not going to tell anybody, so that when they first show up, they'll go, whoa,
okay,
right,
that's pretty awesome. So yes, we did a ton of that, and much of it is phone calls and can you send me pictures of this? Can you send me pictures of this? It's also, hey, AJ, Coach Hendo, Coach Georgialis, Coach Hahn, when you go places, can you take pictures of their locker rooms? What's their locker? What did you like? What did you not like? And we spent a lot of time in conversation with coaches about how do you want your locker room suite to look? How do you want this to look?
Yeah.
And then you have to fit it within confines of what you have to work with. And that's really a really, really fun part of this whole process is you get to talk and work through that. And sometimes things don't work exactly how you want, but there's compromises. Oh yeah, this will work. This will work. So it's been a good process.
Because I got to imagine you somewhat compartmentalize it, right? Because we're Daktronics. I'm already thinking of, you want to see different pictures of other video displays and other facilities. But then you mentioned locker rooms or even just different things to do with seating or the student club areas. So you're almost needing different ideas for these different sections then around, right?
Absolutely. And that's, we have wonderful people that, like I mentioned, we're working with students. We also put a committee together to work on how we properly honor Frost Arena. How do we put that up? How do we make sure that we are dedicating a space for a Hall of Fame members? People can see where those. So those conversations are great, and you get to meet some people you didn't really know that well before, and understand. Oh, this is important to them. Oh, that's a big deal. Let's do that. So yes, you do have to compartmentalize a little bit. Even things like seating, like seating, we've had. Companies come in and present to us, and what are we going to do with the upper north seats? They're kind of set in there right now. How do we get those changed out without it being a big pain? We have ductwork on the ceiling right now that is actually not being used. So how do we get that out? Who we work with that? Our construction manager has been great to work on those things. But there is a ton of it. Things like I mentioned the telescopic bleachers coming in and out. There are different systems, and everybody's going to tell you their system works the best. So that's when you do your research and you call people you trust. Hey, this system here doesn't. Don't believe that.
Was it
but
the
this
best?
This works pretty good, and their service is great. When I call them, they answer. So you do as much research as you can to try and pick the right things. Speaking of seating, and I know I'm going all over the place.
You're fine.
Speaking of seating, it was very important to us that we made each seat comfortable. And so we've got 35 inches leg room, which is, I believe it's an inch more than what is at the Premier Center. I think they have some that are 35, some that are 34. But it's 2 inches longer than what we have right now in our lower level.
Right.
Our seats are 22 inches wide. which is at least as wide as what we have now, and it's wider than most of what we have now. We're picking, padding, things like seating is very, very important to us. So much so that if we have to lose a few seats because we're picking these nicer, then so be it. That's what it's going to have to be.
That's what I was going to ask you a question on trends, but I feel like I might even be answering this as I ask it. But because I was thinking about what you said already, it's a trend that we've noticed at Daktronics for professional and college stadiums and facilities is sometimes it's not always about the capacity number. So you mentioned comfortable seats is one of them, but then when you were talking about all the renovations being done, you also mentioned, a lot more social areas for people to come and hang out. That's also a trend that we see is that, okay, we'll sacrifice some chairs and the seating capacity if people are more social and having a good time at the event that's going on. Did that play a big factor into kind of, and what trends were you looking to add to the renovation?
For sure. And trends, you do have to look at them, but you also have to be careful of them. How long will they last? And so you try to set it up where you believe it's going to be long lasting. So for example, I talked about platform decks on our east and west side, which are behind the baskets. On our east and west side, on the east side, instead of having the final 4 rows at the top of the building, we took those final 4 rows out and made it one big platform that's about 17 feet wide.
Okay.
And there's 3 sections of that. So if you wanted to, you could have 3 different parties, or you could have one large party. And we've got it's little counter at the front overviewing the court with chairs, and then we're looking at pub tables behind, standing room behind. It's a place where you can watch a game, but you can also be in a social environment. Same thing on the west side. Instead of having those last 4 rows in the student section, we've made it a platform so the students could go up there and hang out if they would like to. We are also very enthused about the opportunity we can give to ADA seating in our new arena. ADA seating are going to be in all facets at all levels, and so we're excited to offer that to those folks that need ADA seating.
Sure. And you've been mentioning a few things here that have kind of like come up in my head that you're thinking of all these tiny little details, like an extra inch of leg room or the width of the seat being exactly 22 inches, which is, in most cases, common or larger than what you had before. And if you have to lose some seats to make that more comfortable, you're doing that. There's a lot of these little details that people might not notice right away until they're actually mid-event or sitting down for the first time. Or in the decks that you mentioned, they'll probably see that right away.
Yep.
But something else, it's all the infrastructure that goes into it. Like you said, this first phase, people probably won't really notice. And you mentioned even ductwork that people might not even think about. They just want the place to be comfortable, the right temperature, not too hot, not too cold in the winter type of thing. But you're getting all those details hammered out well beforehand, and people won't even notice it, but it's going to be a big upgrade in the end.
Correct. And what you just did is summarized what makes our job tick, and what makes it good is that people don't notice what we're doing. It's almost like a good referee.
Yeah.
If they're good, you don't notice. It just things go smoothly. So it's our job to handle those things. And there will be some things we miss and we have to figure out, and we will. But it's a good point. It's things like cross courts on the main gym floor. How do we set those up so volleyball will maybe be able to use 3 cross courts instead of what we have 2 right now?
Okay.
But how do we set that up so during the course of volleyball, wrestling, and basketball, because sometimes there is a point in the season where they're all happening at the same time, we don't want to take where the score table is on the north side. That takes roughly an hour to set up and set down. Well, sometimes we don't have that. And so let's offset the volleyball side courts so that we don't have to mess with that north side, but the south side we can bring in, and we can bring in easily. Okay, we set it up here, we set it up here. How do the basketball cross courts work into that with the east and west sides? Do we have to push those in? So those are the types of things that generally the public doesn't think about, but we have to think about it. It makes logistical sense to us.
Yeah, and Justin's really good at summarizing. That's what he does. There's lots of times where I say, I'm trying to think of something to say, and I just say it all out, and Justin's summarizing half the words I do. But I do like you saying trends that are actually going to stay day. And what popped in my mind, and you probably remember this, but I remember in Daktronics we used to get hit on this all the time, was like 3D glasses for an LED display. Remember that?
Right.
That was in
the
every
3D
trade
phase.
show that we had to put 3D glasses because they wanted to see it on the displays.
Sure.
That was supposed to be a big trend and didn't quite take off. Why would you need in 3D when you're seeing it there in real life in 3D?
Yes.
But so it kind of ties into a question I had too, was you mentioned even when you first got started in administration and you were in Augustana and all of a sudden you had all these new facility projects.
Yep.
If you think about all those projects that you were part of then and then going through this process, like, and maybe you've hit on some of these points, but what are like some of the main differences between the projects you handled then versus like a modern day facility like this?
It's similar, to be honest. Most construction projects have similarities. Mm-hmm. You might just be talking about financial differences and timeline differences. But most of them, you go through the same process and you want to make sure that what you're doing is done well and being looked at by the right people. And so having the right project managers, having the right construction managers at risk, and them walking you through, because I'm still learning. I've probably been involved in 10 major constructions like this, but this one is different than the last one.
There's always something new or different.
There's always something new. So tell us what's going on now within the world of the bid environment. What are we going to see? Do we have to forecast that, precast is going to be a lot more money because of this happening? Or steel, we can't get it for a year, so we might have to try and do this in our timeline first, do as much as possible before the steel gets in, and it might be different than what we would have done in a timeline where steel would have been done. So there's always something that you just have to mess with a little bit. And that's kind of the fun part of it, is figuring it out. And sometimes you feel like it's not fun because you think you have everything figured out and then something changes. You're like, but then you just sit down and you go through, you have the right people on board. Justin Sell is fantastic. No matter what happens, he's always looking at positive. Well, we can do this, we can do this. And the people we have on board, just everybody we've had to work with in all the projects we've done has been great.
Yeah, he's definitely a very positive person. I've gone to NACTA several years where they always ask him to speak on a panel, and it's always half full, always very positive, talking about everything good like that.
Yes.
And then I don't know. I think you had a question too, but it was if there's someone new starting out in administration right now or looking at a project coming up, from all your experiences, what advice would you give to someone? Because we have different athletic directors that listen to the podcast. So if they're listening, what's some tips you would give them if they're about to start a new construction project?
That's a very good question. I would say listen to your project manager. Listen to, if you have a construction manager at risk, listen to them. If you don't have a construction manager at risk, you'll have an architect, like a design, bid, build. Listen as much as you can and ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's when I first got into this. The lingo and everything. You guys will have lingo at Daktronics that general public won't understand. The lingo, I didn't understand it, and I should understand that, so I'm not going to ask that question. Well, don't be afraid to ask that question. What does that mean? What does that mean? So and everybody is understanding. Yes, it's this.
Sorry, I didn't know you didn't know what that meant, so I'm going to explain it now. Yep.
They are understanding. So, and sometimes it's difficult to be that guy to stop the conversation and say, I'm sorry, I don't quite understand that. But that's probably the biggest tip that I would give them, because it can help you instead of you later having to go back. I wonder what they meant by that and trying to figure out what it is. Now with Google, you can Google up the acronyms.
You're sitting there in the meeting and you're just like, okay, what was that?
Exactly. So that's probably the biggest thing, is trust the people that you have hired to do it, but don't be afraid to ask questions.
Sure. And back to the renovation that you've got going on here, you said you're kind of in that first phase, and there's 2 more years worth of phases. So will it be unveiled in 2024, the fall?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So when that happens, what are you most excited for seeing once it's all wrapped up and complete?
So I'll go back. So the grand unveiling will be fall of 2024,
right.
But the permanent seating on the second level will be finished in the fall of 2023. So you'll actually be
for basketball games, stuff
for basketball games, wrestling, volleyball, and then a portion of volleyball. We may start some of volleyball without them being completed.
Yep.
But so you will see the permanent seats on that second level for the fall of 2023.
Okay.
But then the platforms, the suite level, and the event level, I call it the event level, the gym floor, will be all unveiled in 2024. We also, probably the thing I'm most excited, well, I'm excited for a bunch of things. New bathrooms, we don't have what we should have for bathrooms right now. Concessions, we don't have what we should have for concessions. And everybody's awesome. They understand it's a great place to watch a basketball game. That's the thing I'm looking forward to the most is we still have frost environment, but there's a better experience.
It's an upgrade.
It's an upgrade. But what I was getting to in the South Concourse on the second level, even though the seating will be finished and the concourse will be usable, on 2024 we will unveil that South Concourse. It'll be a grand. There'll be pictures. There'll be honoring Frost, honoring Barn.
Oh, cool.
The Barn. There'll be trophies here, trophies there. A timeline of, well, not necessarily a timeline, but our story with Frost Arena and SDSU athletics, and it's going to be phenomenal. People will look and go, "Whoa, this is pretty cool." That's what I'm looking forward to that. But just in general, being able to treat our fans the way that we feel we need to treat them. They've been so good to our student athletes and our staff that we want to do that.
Yeah, sorry, it's kind of tough to pick just one thing when this whole thing's going on and you're doing all these great things.
Yep. Yeah. So you mentioned there's parts you want to keep kind of close to your chest.
Yes.
And are the LED displays part of that, or is there anything you can talk about?
A portion of them.
Okay,
yes.
that's what I was wondering.
Which you guys probably know.
Yeah. That's what I'm not going to say anything. I'll leave that up to you to talk
We're
about.
excited. I can just sum it up by saying we're excited about how our new Southeast grand entry will look. I probably should have started with that. So right now we have our main entrances are on the east and west side, kind of on the north side of Frost Arena. And then we have the big exterior stairs that go out the southwest and southeast. They're mainly for egress. Okay. Those exterior stairs go away. We will have a new grand entry and grand exit at the southeast corner. So right where the practice gym meets Frost Arena on the southeast corner there, it'll be a grand entrance. And there will be some things on there that people will look at and go, "Oh my goodness, this is awesome."
This is big time.
Yes.
What's the timeline on that? 2024 or 20?
That's 2024.
Okay.
Yep, that's 2024.
That's going to be my next question. Was all the LED display upgrades, that's going to be 2024?
Yes.
Well? Okay.
Yep. That's the thought right now. There may be a few that come in as construction dictates. You know what? We're working on this right now. Let's try to get this in. There may be a few like ribbon boards or things like that we'll try to get in. But as far as that grand entrance is concerned, fall of 2024.
Awesome. Nice. Well, is there anything else that we haven't covered that people should really know about this renovation before they come in 2023 or 2024?
Just follow along, stay up to speed with us. The construction, whether it's supply chain, whether it's labor, construction is going to be not a challenge. It's going to be a fun opportunity for us to figure things out. And so as we are hosting competitions, there may be some nights where, we need to enter through the east side. Some nights where we need to enter the west side or go through. You may not be able to access every location that you were before. People just need to understand that when we're hosting a volleyball tournament, starting off our year this coming fall, and there may be only 1,500 seats available. Just please accept our apologies and know that it's the price of progress.
It's patience, right? You're asking for patience.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Jeff, we want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with us today and talk about this exciting project you've got going on. And it's going to take a while, like you said, to a 3-year project, 3 phases. And it sounds like it's going to be fantastic. I'm excited to see it in a couple of years.
Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, when you talked about staying in touch, we definitely should touch base here again. I know I'm not sure if it's the podcast or videocast mini series, but kind of as construction goes on, it'd be cool to kind of come back and touch base with you to see how things are going.
That'd be great. You
awesome.
bet.
Well, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.